Okay, we are here in our segment. I don't know if this should be What's Brewing or uh, Health Talks or Espresso Self, but it's good that we can be here. And for this segment, we have a special guest. Meron po tayong special na panauhin sa segment na ito. At bago siya umalis, ito nilagay ko na para at least makapag-interview po tayo. Ang ating special guest ay mula pa sa London. At siya ay, ang sabi ko sa kanya, bago ko umalis, then we can do this interview. So may I now introduce to you Pastor David Smith. At ito, magkaharap kami rito and he's over there. And he came over so that he could be attended to. At gusto kong kausapin siya at madala sa inyo ang kanyang experience at kung ano ang ministry na ginawa ng Lighthouse Bible Baptist Church. And so, Pastor David Smith, you're on your way back to London today. And, well, you may greet our listeners, our viewers tonight.
Thank you, Pastor. I'm so thankful for your ministry here. Thank you for your medical ministry, which is really a lifesaver for me.
Mm-hmm.
Difficulties in London, and I thought one of the best places I can probably come to get medical treatment is the Philippines.
Uh-huh.
In fact, the Philippines is known for medical.
Oh, yes.
All over the world.
We have a lot of what we call OFWs out there.
Yeah.
And in UK, we have a lot of people there. Even our nurses here in our church, they're there.
Yeah. If you remove the Filipinos from the medical system in the United Kingdom, it would completely collapse.
Okay. Now you tell the story. You share your story. But then I'd like to tell the story initially. You called me up early in the morning a few weeks back. And you said, Brother Ruben, I need to go to the Philippines to be treated. And I remember I said, what are you saying, to be treated? You're in the best place for treatment. You're in London. What happened to you? And you said, if I'm going to stay here, I'll die waiting. And he said, and in hospitals here, there would be Filipinos who would attend to me. Might as well I go to the Philippines to be treated. Well, tell us the story, Brother David.
Yeah, I've had problems with my kidneys since 2011, and the National Health Service doesn't really practice preventative care, at least not in my experience. So they just treat each episode as a one-off.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a major episode on the end of 2023. And they finally discharged me because the stones weren't moving, but told me to come back if they did, and I did, and they had moved, and they were in a precarious position, and they should have really done surgery then, but they did not.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got and the stones got in a position that blocked me up, and I was really, really struggling.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I was going to die. My mind was confused because of all the poison that was in my system. Even my muscles, my walking, everything was impacted by it. And so having been to the Philippines many times over the years, I knew the high quality of care that is given here. And I thought about you and my last visit to the church when Tata Abante was here. Wonderful memory.
You were a lot younger then.
And a lot skinnier as well. And the both of us didn't have as much gray hair as we have now. But I remember you being here as well. And so I called you and just to give me direction and what to do, because I had no clue you had a medical ministry within the congregation. And from the very moment that I said that to you, you had people on my case. You have Dr. Aika.
Aika Isidro, yes.
Yeah, so yeah.
And she's our head doctor here.
She was excellent with her advice. And And then then Roberto or Robert
Manaus, yes. He's the head of our practitioners here.
He's been with me right at my elbow almost the entire time. And one of your assistants, her name is Irene. She's been a chauffeur for me.
She's a nurse, yes.
She's all of them have been just superb. I couldn't have asked for
See,
more.
what happened was when you called me up, and immediately I called up Robert Manawis, and you know him, you know his wife, and Gina, and I told Robert, you need help. And I said, you need to put together all our doctors and attend to Brother David. And that's what he said. He did exactly.
Yeah.
And well, he called you up, and then you came immediately. But even as you were to arrive, I already called up also Dr. Aika Isidro, and I said, here's your case. So I think she called you up. She messaged you.
Yeah.
And well, even as you were about to come, she already communicated with Dr. Benji Balmores. Now, what we did here during the pandemic, Brother David, we kind of looked into how we can attend to people. See, ministry is not just delivering the message of God's word to people. Okay? It's being able to do everything, to extend services, ministry, and even everything that pleases God. So I pulled together all our medical practitioners, all the doctors, the nurses, the medical technologists, the pathologists, and it helped us that we actually have our own pharmacy. Okay, and it helped us also that we have our own blood bank. And well, this all came into being during the pandemic when we were so limited. But the grace of God in us should not be limited. And so people called each other, and we even have people who would deliver oxygen tanks, deliver medicines. And during the pandemic, we would just do that. When every home was locked, we were able to extend ourselves. And now we continue even beyond the pandemic. And because we are organized as a Lighthouse Watch, that means watch means workers assisting and treating COVID in a home. Well, I have not changed that acronym yet, but even beyond COVID, we are doing this. And so, because we're organized, we are also able to interact and connect with other hospitals and doctors, especially those who are biblical Christians. And so all of those who attended to you, Brother David, are all within our network of biblical Christians. And I praise God for that.
It's so wonderful. Dr. Balmores and Dr. Jundi both worked hand in hand together and got me into St. Luke's, the global, and the healthcare system there is superb. I could tell from the very beginning I'm in really good hands here, and now I trust somebody. I'm speaking face to face with a doctor, which you don't often get in London. It's always a team of people.
We're not actually highlighting the negative things of your experience in London, but we're highlighting here what can be extended by the grace of God in us.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
And how are you now? You've gone through surgery?
Yeah, I've had surgery. I've got to come back for a second procedure, but my kidney was saved. It's an hour. Was supposed to be 30 minutes to an hour procedure. It was 2 hours. It was so critical, and the doctor said I almost lost my kidney. So I'm so thankful to the Lord and for those who are part of this ministry. It's a lifesaver.
So you're on your way. Your flight is later today.
Yes.
And we bid you a safe travel, and we are looking forward to having you again some weeks ahead. Now, as you go, Brother David, you'll continue with what you do in the ministry. Now, you are known for giving lectures and giving exhibitions on the Bible, how it came to us. And you continue with that. You've done this many years back.
Yeah. More than 1,000 exhibitions around the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell us about this.
Well, when I first arrived in England, I found an old Bible in a bookshop, and it was dated 1600. And to me, it was, how could this be? It was too old. Being from America, the country's only 200 years old. It was just unbelievable. So I purchased it, and from there, one by one, I began to collect these antiquarian Bibles and built up a collection, and always with the idea of ministry. It wasn't because I wanted to have one of each kind of something and put it on a shelf and let it collect dust. It needed to be used in the work of the Lord. And a retired Baptist minister then heard about me and invited me to his house for tea one afternoon and discussed his collection and agreed to sell it to me. And I had no money, and he gave me a couple of years to pay for it, and he let me take them away so I could use them. And he realized that we had a heart for the Bible. We had a heart to share the Word of God and to share the history of how the Bible came to us. So that was really the launching pad for everything. And I made him a promise. I promised that we would always use these Bibles that he had sold to us in the work of the Lord. And we have always done that. My father before me, or my father joined me in the collecting of these Bibles. And he retired as a pastor, and then he took them around the United States and around the world lecturing. And so we've had an ongoing family ministry for many, many years now. We've been in some fabulous places and places I could never dream of. Probably our most prestigious location was the Vatican Library for 6 weeks, and 65,000 people attended the exhibition. It was
in Vatican.
In the Vatican. It was told to us that it was the largest and best attended exhibition in the history of the Vatican Library.
You would not be able to do that many years, and there was a time when Catholics here were not allowed to even touch a Bible.
Well, they allowed us in. It was their way of celebrating the King James Bible. They don't have one, an early first edition. We had one. We brought it over. We put it on exhibition with lots of manuscripts. I wasn't the only one exhibiting there, but there was a number of us, and it's a wonderful place. But we've exhibited in Hong Kong and Singapore, in Africa, in of course here in the Philippines in the past, Eastern Europe, Belarus, the National Library, a country that still puts Christians in jail for giving out Bibles or witnessing. And we were invited to exhibit in the National Library, and politicians and educators, they just poured in. It was.
I remember you did an exhibition here in our church. We were still in our old building then, and my tatay. And that was what, 1997? Was it?
I believe it was 1997.
And you brought in, in which places in churches have you been in the Philippines to do this exhibition?
Oh, I can't remember all the places. Metropolitan, Bethany Baptist,
yes.
And then other islands and situations. Very difficult to bring these Bibles at times, so I had to be careful how we handle them. But we several times I've brought them.
Maybe we can make some plans and look forward to.
I would love to come back and share them with you. I have a lot of connections with your church historically.
Yes. Of course.
My dad was a pastor,
right.
And he graduated from Bible college.
We will not simply tell stories of how the Bible came to us, but how we were, started as churches.
Yes.
That's our history.
My father was in Baptist Bible College, graduated in 1954, with many of those earliest American missionaries that came to this country. So that was part of my upbringing. I'm familiar with all the names. I've met all the people. I know the characters involved.
Missionary Elmer Gullion.
Yes, very well. Daisy and Elmer, yes.
Yeah. Well, I have old pictures of that because, I'm kind of still young, but I've.
Well, you're just slightly younger than me. Come on.
Anyway, so we look forward to this, Brother David, and you keep strong, and we will look forward to that. In fact, we have our National Baptist Day celebration every January, the second Thursday of every January of every year. And we are just one country in the world that has this celebration, a National Baptist Day.
Yeah.
And you know how we are, of all religions, of all churches who claim to be churches, they are the Baptists who are so attached to the Word of God, the Bible.
Absolutely. Well,
Okay.
I'm a Baptist because Jesus was a Baptist. Who baptized him? John the Baptist baptized him.
Right. My dad used to say, he would say, well, if you really study the Bible, you cannot turn into any other but a Baptist.
That's right.
And if you are a Baptist, you cannot stand on any other but the Bible.
That's right.
And that's still true, isn't it?
It is indeed.
Okay. So, well, what are your plans now? You're going back to London and then coming back?
Yeah, I'll go back to London. We have a museum in London.
You maintain a museum.
We maintain a museum in London.
Where is it
is
in
unique.
London?
It's in the East End of London, a place called Limehouse. It's close to the train stations, the underground, the bus services. We have a lot of people come from all over the world. We have Bibles from virtually every language, every period of time. We share them with people, and in our museum is not about education. It's about application. We want people when they leave the museum to be different than when they came in, to see something, hear something, learn something, perhaps discover the realities of Christ and the Word of God, and leave the building determined to love God and to love Christ and to follow His Word. That's what it's about, evangelism. So
what's the oldest Bible you have?
I have some fragments from early Coptic scriptures, 4th century.
Wow.
That's about as early, but we have other things that relate to the Bible that are earlier. So we have cuneiform tablets. We have some Nebuchadnezzar bricks that actually contain the name of King
was it already named Bible during the 4th century?
The word Bible is biblos in the Greek, and it means book.
Yes.
And so we've always been known as the people of the book.
Yes.
So the word Bible's been around. It is actually a transliterated word and not a translated word. So when we speak the word Bible, we're actually saying biblos or the word book.
The books, yes. Now, how do you differentiate that with the scriptures?
Well, the scriptures were often referred to as just those of the Old Testament, because the New Testament that uses that passage are referring back to the prophets, to Moses and the prophets and the Psalms.
So that would be very interesting. So when we get to do this exhibition here, we'll not just be talking of how the Bible came into being, not only of our history also, and we'll feature some lectures.
Well, we can bring in the earliest manuscripts we have. We have some things that are 5,000 years old or older. So we can bring those manuscripts with us, put them on display. We have Torah scrolls and Coptic and Syriac and Latin Bibles. We're like the British Library and the British Museum. The main difference between us and them is that they have a 250-year head start on collecting. We're trying to catch up, but it's like visiting Britain and the famous museums there.
So with all these, how do you call yourself? How do you consider yourself?
I'm a Bible Baptist.
Simple as that. Well, thank you, Brother David. Thank you for all this. Your story is indeed a good story to share.
Thank you.
From your health challenge to what you do and all things you do for the Word of God, and you're being a Bible Baptist.
Yeah. Okay. Amen.
Thank you so much. Well, I think we've extended to you some things, not just for your learning, but for your being rooted and grounded. Okay? So, manatili po kayo sa ating programa at magpapatuloy ang ating Lighthouse Cafe.
Mga usaping in, mga paksang trending,
Mga talakayang may kabuluhan.
lifestyle at kultura ang sariling atin.
Buhay Pinoy, pag-usapan natin dito sa
Espresso Self. Noong nakaraang taon, nakita natin na medyo mababa ang resulta ng Program for International Student Assessment or PISA, no? But actually, Erica, it's a good thing, no? Parang good challenge na rin for our education system to aim for better results, especially in reading comprehension, creative thinking, math, and science. Pero syempre, hindi naman yan nangyayari overnight. Kailangan din natin ng pagsisikap ng ating mga students, lalo dito sa papalapit na pasukan.
Yes, tama Gabi. Bukod sa sipag at syaga, kailangan din ng focus ng ating mga kabataan, especially with all the distractions of online gaming, social media, online chats, at marami pa that distract them from studying hard. Kaya naman magandang matuto tayo ng mga practical tips on having good study habits from an expert in studying. Hindi lang dahil teacher siya, pero dahil isa siyang consistent honor student while he was still studying. Wow! Kaya i-welcome muli natin sa ating Espresso Self si Teacher Alphonse. Yan, magandang araw!
Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Thank you for having me.
Di ba? Kita-kita naman natin kay Teacher Alphonse. Very, yung look niya pa lang, parang honor student na.
Oo nga, pero napakagandang transition yun. Parang full bloom na before he was a student, tapos straight A, honor student pa. Tapos ngayon, well-respected, multi-awarded pa. I think, recognized na educator natin. No? Siguro, you wanna share a short background sa iyong naging profession, Sir Alphonse.
Yes po, no. So I am Teacher Alphonse Chapitea. I teach at Xavier School in San Juan City. I've been teaching for a decade now to senior high school students. And I'm also a part-time professor, English professor in Ateneo de Manila University. Yes,
Wow,
Bilis na
what
pa naman, no?
decade.
No, 10 years na pala. Dati-dati, parang naka-uniform ka lang, ano?
Yeah.
Tapos ngayon, no?
Nakikipaglaban lang dati sa pag-aaral, pero ayan ngayon, 1 decade na, no? And for sure, sa iyo pong mahabang experience, no, makikita mo kung ano ba talaga yung mga nagiging challenges ng ating mga estudyante pagdating sa pag-aaral. Siguro, you can name a few, and siguro, parang by age bracket siguro, no? From the young to the itong mga senior na.
Yes. I think yung pinaka-challenge right now would be, as we're seeing it right now, no, is the rise of artificial intelligence. Kasi it's there. It's there to stay. No? I remember the Department of Education around 2010. No, they were saying na we shouldn't be integrating social media into the teaching that we have. Pero makalipas ang ilang taon, you'll be surprised. DepEd is using social media. So ganun din po ang artificial intelligence. No, whatever we do, it's there to stay. We have to safely integrate it. No, so that's artificial intelligence. But secondly, yung nag-lead naman of course dito sa artificial intelligence would be technology itself. No, a lot of distractions para po sa ating mga kabataan. So, nabanggit nga kanina yung online gaming, nabanggit yung social media, no. So, mas marami na talagang oras ang ini-spend na ating mga kabataan, and these things take their attention away from studying. So, yung attention span kumiksi na talaga. So, hindi lang ito challenge sa mga estudyante, challenge din sa mga teachers on how we can, bring these students back to yung real focus on studying.
I think that you hit it right on the head, no, of the nail, no, Sir Alphonse, no. If focus, no, kasi to be honest, ako batang 90s ako, no. So turo nila sa amin, iba yung level yung retention, yung pag-absorb mo ng mga pinag-aaralan mo kapag nag-notes ka, yung pen, paper, and all that. And
nag-highlight ka. I-highlight mo pa yung sinulat mo.
Tapos pag may erasure, ulitin ko yun from the top, no? So, but on a serious note, now that you mentioned yung AI technology, of course, naging mas efficient, mas convenient, mas mabilis for everyone. But at the same time, medyo double-edged din siya kasi medyo tinatamad, tsaka too many distractions nga, no? Tsaka masyadong dependent sa easy route yung ating mga students. But then again, hindi mawawala to, Sir Alphonse, no? So, are there some practical tips na sinishare ninyo or pinapaalala ninyo sa inyong mga students on how to leverage it but at the same time to take 2 steps back, no, in doing so.
The use of artificial intelligence, no, are again, it's there to stay, but there are different modes or approaches on how we can safely integrate. And I think right now, hindi lang yung mga students na mag-benefit, but even teachers, no. So with artificial intelligence, that's the word there. It's to leverage. Meron kasing learning by imitation. Meron ding learning by modification. So ngayon, ang dapat matutunan ng mga estudyante ay hindi learning by imitation kasi yun yung copying and pasting lang sa content ng artificial intelligence. But yung skill na learning by modification, meaning they can get something from artificial intelligence, they should be able to cite it, but also they need to humanize, no, whatever it is that they're gonna get from AI. Kasi hindi naman pwede na AI lang. I was telling my students, pag lahat tayo kumopya sa technology, sa AI, edi AI will become average. So, sino na yung mas galing? Sino na yung mas mataas kung lahat na lang tayo kukopya sa AI? So, you need to see your humanity in whatever you do. So, sa akin, tanggapin natin yung rise ng technology, tanggapin natin yung rise ng AI, pero turuan natin yung mga estudyante natin maging, actually, I don't believe in academic honesty. I believe in academic integrity. Kasi iba yung academic integrity sa academic honesty. I can be honest na kinuha ko lahat from AI, pero integrity would be, nahihiya ako kinuha ko lahat from AI. So, dapat marunong din ako ilagay yung sarili ko into what I do. So, we use technology para yung mga inconveniences mawala. Pero, at the same time, pag nakatipid ka ng oras, yung mga estudyante, dapat naman gamitin nila sa iba pang mga worthy na bagay yung oras na matitipid nila pag gumamit sila ng technology.
Interesting, lalim, no? But,
academic integrity.
Academic integrity, AI, no? And then parang
Yes.
Ayan. And nabanggit Gabi ni Teacher Alphonse Crina na yun nga, no, yung anong tawag dito, yung paggamit nitong AI actually is also a challenge dun sa mga teachers kasi syempre pag nag-check sila di ba, para kumbaga yun nga nakikita mo na medyo hindi siya humanized, no? And nabanggit din natin sa intro yung PISA results nga na talagang lagging tayo when it comes to reading comprehension and even yung creative thinking. So ano ba yung nag-result dito sa deficiency na to? Nandun ba yun siguro sa education system natin, would you say, or even itong AI or yung naging attitude ng ating mga estudyante to it?
I think when it comes to the PISA results, no, that's actually mind-blowing, no, knowing na pinipilit na nating baguhin. Nagkaroon tayo ng Enhanced Basic Education Act noong 2013. Dinagdagan natin ng 2 taon for senior high school at yung ibang mga courses from college, dinownload natin sa senior high so that our students would be better equipped. Pero bakit ganito pa rin yung nangyari? And there are so many factors that we have to consider. I agree that something that we can improve na sa education system natin. That is why the Department of Education for the past years has been doing a curriculum audit. No, I think next year ilalabas sila yung senior high school na from 15 required subjects, 5 na lang yung subjects na gagawin nila. So that's one thing, no? Kasi ang dapat natin gawin would be tanggalin natin from content-based ang ating curriculum papunta sa competency-based. Kasi lagi na lang content, lagi na lang kabisado. Hindi naman nakikita ng mga estudyante yung gamit ng kinakabisado nila. Kailangan mag-focus tayo sa mga life skills talaga. Kasi ganyan din ang ginawa ng Vietnam, ganyan ang ginawa ng Finland, yung magagaling na mga school sa PISA. Competency-based lang sila, life skills. Yung content sumunod na lang along the process. No? And then apart from that, hindi natin talaga matatawaran yung naging resulta naging effect ng pandemic. Hindi talaga natin maalis yun. Kumbaga, yung already lagging na curriculum natin at mga estudyante natin, winorsen talaga ng pandemic. Talagang, imagine they were doing modules at home, walang more knowledgeable author, walang teacher. Yung mga magulang naman natin, hindi natin masisi sapagkat hindi naman din nila expertise yung ginagawa ng mga anak nila sa bahay. So talagang, it's the education system that needs some auditing, needs some actually, kung kailangan i-revamp ang curriculum, we need to do that. And I think TEPED is already doing that. But also, yung pandemic at yung mga tuloy-tuloy na mga nangyayari. And of course, again, babalik tayo sa technology. Dahil mas lalo na tayo ang number one users ng internet sa buong mundo. So talagang ang daming distractions ng mga kabataan natin. And syempre, pang-apat would be hindi natin maalisin talaga socioeconomics. Hindi natin maalis, talagang mahirap mag-aral kung gutom ka. At kaya we need to we also need to focus on these things. Kaya natuwa ako sa isang batas no na isinulat at napirmahan ni Pangulong Marcos no yung para ma-prevent natin yung mga stunted na mga kabataan, yung kahit ng formative years, kasi pag hindi ka nagkaroon ng proper nutrition sa mga ages na yun, yung 2 to 5 years old, forever nang stunted yung bata. Talaga mahihirapan na siya sa pag-aaral. So there are so many factors, but we're just really tapping pa lang dun sa tip ng iceberg.
Very, multifaceted yung mga solutions and interventions na mention mo, Sir Alfonso. And I'm glad na talaga nag-wake up call itong assessment, yung results sa atin. Even I think before that, and obviously may mga halo effects pa yung sa pandemic as you've mentioned, no? What about ito? Kasi alam ko covered din yung math and science, no? So very basic to, no? In fact, dun magaling si Erica nung kabataan niya, no? Both math and science.
Hindi na tatanong.
Ito, would you say same factors apply na yun nga sa pandemic and all that, or may fundamental issues din tayo na kailangang i-enhance or i-address?
Base sa pag-aaral na ginawa ng EDCOM, no, that's the second Congregational Commission on Education under the present Congress now. EDCOM 1 was done in the 90s, and it led to the trifocalization of education. That's why we have CHED for higher education, we have DepEd for basic education, and TESDA for textbook. So that's one of the beautiful results of EDCOM 1. Ngayon merong EDCOM 2. And EDCOM 2 is telling us that we have to go back to the basics, to the foundational skills, no? Kasi ang ginagawa natin, kung maalala po ninyo, no, ang pag-aaral ng sciences and mathematics, pag first year ka, general science.
Yes.
Pag second, biology. Tapos chemistry, tapos physics. Pero kung titignan mo sa kabuuan, hindi mo na nakakaalala yung gen sci, yung bio, yung chemistry. Yung physics nga mahirap pa rin kasi physics ay minimary mo yan sa math eh. So, ngayon merong idea na sana sa bawat quarter, sa buong taon, merong tinge of those 4 subjects. Ganun din sa mathematics. So talagang dapat talaga at makita ng mga kabataan na yung mathematics, hindi lang siya numbers. Talagang dapat, again, from content-based to competency-based. Kaya dito, sa school namin, yes, tinuturuan namin sila, for example, yung mga compounding na mga something. Pero, nilalagyan agad ng application na pwede pala siyang i-apply kapag gusto mo mag-stocks, gusto mo mag-bonds. Kasi kailangan nakikita ng mga kabataan yung relevance. Marami siyang pilosopo, mga estudyante. Gagamitin ko ba yung mathematics pag, for example, pumunta akong bakery? Sasabihin ko ba 2x minus 1 na pandesal?
Yung quadratic formula, di ba?
Exactly. Di ba? Kasi hindi nila nakikita yung needs. So I think we need to, again, yes, there's content, but we also have to be progressive or practical. Dapat na itatawid agad natin sa real-world application. Kaya maganda yung supportado ko, kaya lang medyo tumigil. 90s kids would know yung mga math technique, yung mga siniskwela. Kasi hindi lang content tumatawid siya sa
relatable talaga.
Relatable at talagang real-world application. So, yun ang dapat natin gawin. Kaya, hindi lang siya basta isang subject, tapos meron pang elementary algebra, intermediate algebra, advanced algebra. Dapat talaga sa bawat taon, nag-spiraling siya. Para laging you build on what has been established from the previous years. Dapat that's how we see science and math. Ang English naman, hindi gaanong concern when it comes to content kasi skills-based naman yan eh. Ang problema natin sa English, reading comprehension. Sapagkat marami mga kabataan o nag-graduate ng grade school, pumunta ng high school, hindi sila marunong magbasa. Yung iba hindi naman marunong umintindi. Maraming marunong magbasa, pero walang retention, walang comprehension. Kaya reading comprehension, apektado na rin yung math tsaka science. Kasi paano makakasagot pag hindi marunong umintindi, hindi marunong mag-retain?
So nakita talaga natin, Gabi, na holistic talaga
Yes.
no, yung dapat na maging approach. Kumbaga, hindi lang siya kung nag-aaral ba yung bata or hindi, but even yung environmental factors, kung paano siya sa bahay or siguro paano siya with his friends, ganyan. So nagmamatter din yun. And siguro, Teacher Alphonse, dahil medyo short na tayo sa time, no, pero meron ba talagang parang masasabi natin na good study habits siguro para sa mga kabataan? Or kasi di ba parang madalas na narinig natin na parang grades don't define who you are, di ba?
It's your parents who are teachers also.
Oo, yes. So, ano po ba yung, siguro mga message nyo na lang po sa ating mga kabataan?
I think pagdating sa study habits, napakarami na, wala na akong pwedeng ibigay na bago. Again, punta lang yung mga kabataan sa AI, give me the most effective study habits and you will learn that. Pero I think one thing that I just want to clarify, or I think to emphasize would be, you should know your learning style. Sapagkat bawat kabataan, bawat tao, kahit matatanda, may sariling learning style. Meron mga morning person, may mga night person, meron people that are who are highly visual, highly auditory, highly kinesthetic. Kaya minsan meron ako estudyante, laro ng dalawang ballpen sa mga kamay niya, piniflip niya, piniflip. Hindi ko na pinapansin kasi may pagka-neurodivergent pala. That's the best strategy that he does no para makapag-memorize siya. So really, ang challenge sa mga kabataan would be to know your learning styles, and then once you have gone to know what your learning styles are or learning style is, punta ka lang sa internet, napakarami mong pwede gawin. Pero do not forget to really be focused, no? To really be inspired. Remember that whatever you're doing right now, it's not just for the present, no? But will really affect what's ahead, no? Sa future. Kaya galingan mo ngayon sapagkat alam mo na yung future self mo magpapasalamat sa mga mabubuting bagay na yung version mo ngayon ay ginagawa. No? So that's how we should reframe, no, these things.
Gusto mo magpasalamat sa parents mo na teachers din, no?
Ayan, syempre saludo din tayo sa ating mga teachers na very, yan talaga, binibigay nila ang lahat para matuto ang kanilang mga estudyante.
Maraming salamat, Sir Alphonse. Ako, saludo rin ako, no? Gusto ko rin maging teacher kaso parang huli na ang lahat. Maraming salamat. I'm feeling optimistic. I'm feeling really positive, no, sa mga naririnig ko. So hopefully we see the fruits of yung mga interventions and enhancements na na-mention ni Sir Alphonse. There's one thing na kailangan po natin pag-aralan, kailangan po natin examine, kailangan po talaga nating maintindihan. Ito po ay ang salita ng Panginoon. Kaya huwag po kayong aalis, susunod na po ang Hebrews.
Welcome to Hebrews. Ito po ang segment sa ating palatuntunan na naglalayong bigyang daan sa ating mga buhay ang mga napag-uusapan po natin sa ating mga segments. Napag-usapan po natin ang tungkol sa kaalaman or knowledge, karunungan, wisdom, at kaunawaan. Madalas po binabalik-balikan natin po ito. Mahalaga po na ang bata o ang tao ay magkaroon ng edukasyon at ang kanyang edukasyon o kaalaman ay matranslate niya into practical na pagkilos, which is karunungan o wisdom. At ang lahat ng ito na kanyang pagkilos at wisdom ay tumungo po sa kapakanan, hindi lang ng kanyang sarili, kundi ng kalahatan. Ano po? Now, having said this, tinuturo po ng banal na kasulatan na mayroong isang elemento na kinakailangan common sa tatlong ito. Whatever that be, knowledge man yan, or wisdom, or understanding. Ang pinaka-common po sa bagay na ito at pinaka-pundasyon actually ng lahat ay the fear of the Lord. Mga ilang talata po ang ating maaaring tukuyin dito. In Proverbs chapter 9 and verse 10, ito po ang sinasabi, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the holy is understanding. Ayan, nakasite. Yung wisdom and understanding. Dito po naman sa Proverbs 1:7, ang sinasabi, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. In fact, in other verses, in Psalm number 111 and verse 10, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, a good understanding have all they that do his commandments. His praise endureth forever. Kahit po sa Job, which is one of the oldest books in the Bible. Ang sinasabi po dito sa Job 28:28, and unto man he said, behold the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding. Ano po ang ating sinasabi sa bagay na ito? Mahalaga ang kaalaman, ang karunungan at kaunawaan. Ngunit ang pinaka-common po at pinakamahalaga sa pagkakaroon ng lahat ng ito ay ang fear of the Lord o ang takot sa ating Panginoon. Sapagkat anuman ang ating maging kaalaman, anuman ang ating maging karunungan o kaunawaan, sabihin na natin ito'y kapakanan ng mga kung sino-sino mga tao. Yun ang ating pag-unawa. Subalit, kinakailangan po ay mayroong magandang platform. Para saan? Alam niyo po ang sabi sa fear of the Lord is this in Proverbs 8:13. The fear of the Lord is to hate evil, pride, arrogancy, and the evil way, and the froward mouth do I hate. Ibig sabihin po pala, ang takot sa Diyos, ang takot sa ating Panginoon ay nagbibigay ng tamang pamantayan sa lahat ng uri ng kaalaman. Ano po? Maaaring tayo ay conscientious tayo sa lahat ng ating dapat matutunan. Subalit, kung hindi ito naka-platform sa bagay na magkaroon tayo ng pag-iingat na gumawa tayo ng mali, gumawa tayo ng masama, no? At tayo magkaroon ng disiplina to go away from evil, from pride, and from arrogancy, yun pong ating matututunan ay makadadagdag lamang sa kasamaan. At magagamit pa para sa kasamaan. Naniniwala po tayo na ang lahat ng kaalaman, karunungan, at kaunawaan, kung ito ang platform, the fear of God, at meron tayong pag-iingat na huwag tayong lalayo sa mga bagay na consistent sa attributes ng ating Diyos. Halimbawa, God is righteous, God is holy, God is truth. Ano po? God is just. Ang lahat pong ito ay kinakailangan po natin na obserbahan habang tayo'y nagkakaroon ng kaalaman at ng karunungan at ng kaunawaan. At tutungo po ang lahat, hindi lang po sa kaibsan ng kahirapan, kaibsan ng kung anong mga sakit sa buhay, kundi sa magandang kabuhayan, kapayapaan at kaunlaran sa ating lipunan. Indeed, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of it all. Pagpapala po sa ating lahat.
Welcome to Health Talks. World Thyroid Day is observed every May 25 or nitong nakaraang May 25, and this day is observed every year to raise awareness about thyroid diseases. Alam mo, Antoinette, sa totoo lang, hindi rin ako ganoon kaalam about thyroid diseases other than yung tinatawag natin na goiter.
Ako naman, Harvey, no, syempre in my practice as a nutritionist dietitian, syempre lagi nating pinopromote yung proper nutrition and proper diet, no, especially sa ating mga patients na may thyroid-related diseases. And of course, yung mga iodine-rich foods kagaya ng ating mga seafoods, mga seaweeds, and of course yung iodized salt natin. And for our new episode today, we are blessed to have with us an endocrinologist from St. Luke's Medical Center to talk about this topic. So welcome to sa Health Talks, Dr. Teofilo San Luis Jr. Thank you po for being with us po.
Okay, thank you rin sa inyong lahat at for the invitation to speak on the thyroid. Actually, it's hindi lang World Thyroid Day, kundi International Thyroid Awareness Week. It's a week na natapos, it started May 25 and ended May 31.
Yeah.
Ayan, Doc, so nababanggit na po natin kanina even in the introduction po, ano? Anong una po nating tanong is, ano po ba talaga ang purpose ng ating thyroid glands?
You know, ang thyroid gland ay isang mahalagang organ of the body that regulates metabolism ng ating katawan. At especially important sa yung rhythm ng ating katawan, ng ating metabolism, yung paggalaw it affects every other organ for that matter. And especially sa mga nagbubuntis, this is very important topic dahil ang isang babae na nagbuntis at siya pala ay may thyroid disorder, ay nako, malaking problema ang kahaharapin ng babae nito, lalo na kung yung pinanganak niya ay nagkaroon na ng mga deficiencies in IQ. Yan ang problema.
And napakaganda na nabanggit niyo po, Doc, no, na we are celebrating International yung nga po ng Thyroid Week, or ito po yung ating awareness towards this disease. Kasi kagaya nga po ng sabi ni Harvey, it's not really, siguro po as the public ay medyo kulang po yung kaalaman po, no, tungkol sa thyroid diseases, kahalagahan ng ating thyroid glands, and of course, ano po yung mga diseases na related to it. And maganda po that you already mentioned yung special population natin na pregnant women. But for us, siguro po sa general public as Filipinos, ano po ba yung mga ibang common thyroid diseases na maaaring hindi, nasasawan lang bahala po natin bilang mga Pilipino?
Well, dito sa atin, ang mga nakikita namin mga pasyente, by the way, I'm not an endocrinologist. I am a thyroidologist. Iba yung kasi. Iba yung thyroidology. Part of endocrinology, pero I'm not, I don't see any other patients except for the thyroid. Whereas an endocrinologist will see also diabetes, parathyroids, at saka mga osteoporosis. Anyway, ang thyroidology is something that we concern ourselves with thyroid patients, at siguro ma-relate ito ng karamihan kapag sinabi na ito yung may bosyo. Pero it has to be cleared na hindi lang yung paglaki ng leeg o bosyo ang nangyayari, no? That's the most obvious kasi. That's the kitang-kita kasi yan pagka lumaki. Pero I have to point out to you na merong mga pasyenteng may thyroid problem na hindi lumalaki ang thyroid gland, hindi lumalaki ang bosyo, hindi nagkakaroon ng bosyo actually. Pero it is affecting the metabolism. So ang tinatawag dito yung mga hyperthyroidism or hypothyroidism. At andyan na rin yung thyroid cancer. So ito yung mga most common afflictions of the patients na sometimes hindi nakikita . So it has to be stressed na yung itong mga hindi lumalaki ang leeg, hindi ibig sabihin wala silang problema, ha? So hindi lang nakikita, pero may mga simptomas, at yun ang dapat alamin ng mga taong maraming symptoms and yet hindi obvious na may goiter.
And Doc, you've mentioned na nga rin po, no, of course, physical symptoms. But other than that, how do we diagnose po ba itong different thyroid diseases? And meron po ba mga specific tests na ginagawa for us to diagnose ito po?
Oh yes. Maraming tests. Pero it should be based on symptoms kasi muna, no? Importante yung may mga symptoms na siguro sa hyperthyroid, ito yung mga nangangayaya, tapos lumalaking mata minsan, tapos malakas ang kaba ng dibdib, initin ng pakiramdam, pawisin, mabilis dumumi, and of course sa mga kababaihan, may problema sa menstruation, mga ganon. Yun ang hyperthyroid. Yun namang hypothyroid ay ito naman yung kabaligtaran. Yung mga tumataba kahit na hindi kumakain, no? Sabihin gano'n, Doc, bakit yung aking pagtaba hindi naman ako kumakain ng halos. Yun ang mga ganon. Tapos yung mga antukin, ginawin, at saka constipation, walang energy, Yung mga ganun ng mga simptomas niya. Now, yung tanong mo, Harvey, kanina, ano ba ang mga test? Well, pagka depende sa symptoms yan, ha? Yun na sinabi ko kanina. Kung hyperthyroid or hypothyroid, but whichever it is. Ang mga test na ginagawa namin, bukod doon sa mga blood tests na ang pangalan ay TSH, or T3, mga ganun. Mga maririnig ng mga kanya pagka binanggit ng mga healthcare workers na may mga test na dapat gawin, TSH, T4, TSH, at saka mga thyroid ultrasound na ginagawa or thyroid scan. Yan ang mga usually ginagawa sa mga pasyenteng may mga problema sa thyroid.
Yeah, so siguro po to reiterate yung nabanggit ni Doc, napakaganda to for everyone to be aware na hindi nga lang po goiter yung paglaki ng leeg ang dapat nating tinitignan, kundi meron nga po tinatawag na hyperthyroidism and hypothyroidism. And ako personally, actually, Doc, just to follow up lang po, I also had an experience related to that kasi nagkaroon din po ako ng related naman po sa menstruation, and I think yun nga po yung TSH, T3, T4, so it's very important also for women na talagang kapag ito na yung mga symptoms po, no, and of course for also males na pag may mga symptoms na po tayo kagaya na banggit ninyo to go to our mga experts, kagaya ni Doc Teofilo. So, pero ito, is it treatable po, Doc? Or are there treatments or paano po natin na-manage? Paano po ninyo minamanage itong mga sakit, both hyper and hypothyroidism po?
So kung halimbawa, nakita na based on the symptoms, no? Siyempre, it should always be in the context of the symptoms. Dahil merong iba, minsan, alam naman natin na may mga symptoms na nakikita rin sa ibang diseases na hindi naman pala thyroid, no? Ganun. Ba, nangangayayat. O, sasabihin natin, nangangayayat ka, baka hyperthyroid ka na. But, it has to be taken in. So, in the symptoms, importante yan, sa umpisa pa lang, makita na may mga symptoms na relevant talaga. Yun mga binanggit ko na kanina. And then, the next step will be doing the physical examination. Focus neck, siyempre. Sabi ko nga kanina, na kung malaki na at obvious na talaga, then mukhang may madali nang ma-recognize na may problema sa thyroid. Ang problema lang, Tonet, is that kung hindi malaki ang thyroid at may mga symptoms, those are the situations na doon papasok yung mga blood testing at saka ultrasound or thyroid scan. Now, madali naman pagka nakita na meron ng may mga resulta na yon, the treatment is very simple. Pagka mga hyperthyroid, we just give anti-thyroid drugs. At saka yung mga choices din ng mga pasyente kung anong gusto nila. Anti-thyroid drugs ba? Gusto ba nila ng radioactive iodine therapy or malaki na talaga at saka medically cleared yung surgery. Those are the three management modalities sa thyroid. Ngayon, kung hypothyroid naman, ito naman ay binibigyan ng mga thyroid hormone replacement. Again, madali rin itong gawin at alam naman ng kahit ng mga family doctors, alam naman nila kung how to treat a hypothyroid. Madali lang yung yan. Importante is ma-diagnose correctly.
Doc, siguro briefly lang po, meron po ba tayong mas prone to having hyper or hypothyroid? Let's say, for example, gender or may age bracket po ba that are more prone?
Yes, tama ka, Harvey. Dahil karamihan, mga 80 to 90% of our patients are female. So yeah, all set na yan. Female. At saka women of reproductive age, yung group. And then, very important din, sa unang salpukan pa lang, dapat tatanong na kung may family history ba kayo. Kung may family history, then malakas ang influence ng genetics eh. So, kung wala naman, hindi naman ibig sabihin na kung walang family history, exempted ka. No. Pwede ka magkaroon. Dahil ito yung mga tinatawag naming autoimmune diseases na nakikita kahit na walang family history, dumarating na lang on its own. And so nakakapagtaka nga yung iba. Sabihin, wala naman ho kami sa family namin may mga ganito. But does not exempt you from having these conditions. So immune diseases, then of course thyroid cancer. That's why importante na malaan particularly maternal history of diseases na ganito. Importante yan.
How about sa lifestyle po, Doc? In terms of, lifestyle, meaning diet, o kaya naman sleeping pattern, stress, mga ganun po.
Hindi yan sa diet, wala yan sa diet. At saka, importante lang is, itong mga pasyente namin na nakikita, may mga periods of stress. Kanya nga mahirap sabihin o mahirap delineate. Sabihin, nai-stress ka lang dyan. Sabihin natin gano'n. When in fact, yung hyperthyroid na pala siya, no? Dahil, siyempre, nati-trigger. Basta may mga ganong severe stressful situations, it can be a trigger, but the most important yung dumarating ng walang symptoms, ng walang family history, walang stress, pero yung pala ay meron na pala silang problema, especially kung merong nodule, what we call a nodule. So importante na kapain nila ang sarili nila. Madali naman ito yung gawin kayo mismo pwedeng kapain yung mga leg ninyong ganyan, no? And then kung hindi kayo sigurado, sige, pakapaan niyo sa doktor. At para malaan kung may mga nodule. Kasi sometimes these nodules can be so minimal, mga 1 centimeter lang or 2 centimeters. Meron na palang nodule at yung pala ay active nodule or tinatawag naming toxic nodule. Toxic nodular goiter, may mga ganon. So, it's important that the history should really be complemented by physical examination, and then the third step is the laboratory testing and imaging. Yan lang naman madali lang ng goiter.
So, ayan, maraming salamat po, Doc. You've mentioned na rin po a few practical tips on how to manage and even how to, of course, know kung meron po tayo nitong thyroid. Muli, maraming salamat po, Doc. Huwag po kayo naalis. Babalik po ang Lighthouse Cafe.
And again, we have come to the point of saying thank you for joining us. Naging napakaganda po para sa akin ang ating mga pinag-usapan.
Yes, kaya nagpapasalamat po kami sa aming mga naging guests ngayong araw na ito. Pwede niyo pong balikan ang mga episodes namin mula sa Facebook and YouTube channel. Hanapin niyo lamang po ang Lighthouse BBC, Great Commission TV or GCTV Asia. And make sure na naka-like po kayo dyan and subscribe.
At para naman po sa mga on the go, meron din po tayong podcast sa Spotify. Hanapin niyo lamang po ang Lighthouse Cafe and you can listen to our episodes anywhere you are.
At shoutout po sa ating faithful na tech and food team. Hindi po magiging posible ang ating weekly live broadcasts without this team. Andyan po sina Sir Edwin Ballesteros, Rina Abante, Jed Noboa, Aaron Joy Abante, E.L. Cid, Jeff Cutie Alvarado, Leal Paz, Japs Dominguez, Chris Fortes, Emily Ballesteros, Daisy Ku, Malu Inuruno, and Jabez Camoa.
At salamat din po sa aming mga ministry partners for Gospels Catering Services, Hub 105, Hair Cutters Republic. Maaari po mabisitahin kanilang branch dyan sa Q Plaza Mall sa Cainta, Rizal.
And so join us again next week, Monday night, same time, 8:30, for another live broadcast ng ating pong Lighthouse Cafe.
Where good talks happen.